Hello and welcome back to 1874. It's time for a full-time show as myself and my good friend Dave Reed are going to look back on Young Boys 0, Aston Villa 3. This is a Champions League show. Who would have thought that we'd have been saying that a few years ago? And how good did it feel, Dave, to be in the Champions League, watching Villa, watching the players line up, the anthem playing, hearing the Villa fans cheer that first time it came on. How good was that last night?
Yeah, it was fantastic, and it was the culmination really of that long time. Really, it's been such a long time. Obviously, more than 40 years since Villa were in the European Champions League, and I thought the performance last night was the perfect tribute to Gary Shaw and all the players really who have played for Villa over the last couple of years, in particular, and also before that as well, coming up from the Championship, and really, it was the perfect performance last night. I was so excited in the build up to the game, on the day of the game, to hear the music and to see that performance. It was amazing.
I mean, I should say as well, this Champions League edition of the show. It's also the Alvin and the Chipmunks edition of the show because David's away this week and hasn't taken his microphone away with him. Very unprofessional, and he sounds a little bit like a chipmunk through my ears. Maybe he does through yours as well. I'm not sure. So yeah, apologies for the audio, but we wanted to do a show because you can't not do a show on this channel. I used to stand outside Villa Park in the Championship days, speaking to fans in the rain after we lost 3-1 to Barnsley. And now I get to talk about Champions League football, which is just absolutely ridiculous. It was a difficult start for Villa, I thought, Dave. First 15, 20 minutes. It felt very much like a Europa Conference League tie for the first 15, 20 minutes, actually. Villa struggling to get to grips away from home, the artificial pitch, quite a hostile atmosphere down the one end of the stadium. But after that, once Villa got going, we just looked a cut above Young Boys. Greg said in our preview show, there's a big golfing class between these two teams. I think that was evident, but Villa did have to ride out that first 15, 20 minutes, Dave.
Yeah, and I posted at half time just to say that it was really the experiences of the Europa Conference League that have made that kind of feeling of those first 20 minutes feel a bit better for supporters watching the game. I thought the experiences of last year really came to the fore for those players, away from home. We went to some difficult places last year, not just, difficult teams, Lille, Olympiacos, but also, far-flung places that some of the players probably out here in the Europa Conference League. So I think all that experience last year really came to the fore. Those first 15, 20 minutes were difficult, but I thought they defended really well. I thought they were, resolute. And then once they got the foot into the game, they showed their class. And I listened to the preview show, and Greg was right. It was a a cut above, really. Villa looked a class above that team, and I know they caused Villa a few problems in those first 15, 20, established themselves. I thought there was a real maturity about the whole game performance last night, managing the game really well, using the crowd almost against them at times, delaying, making sure that Villa keep the possession as much as they possibly can. And I thought it was a really mature performance. And to be honest, I don't think Villa would have put in that performance if we'd have gone straight into the Champions League this season. That's why the Europa Conference League, in my opinion, was so important for us last year, to give those players the building blocks to come into the Champions League and really manage to assert themselves in this competition. I simply don't think Villa put in that performance last night had we not played in the Conference League last year.
Yeah, and I think one of my favourite things about Emery and the way he sets Villa up is, on the face of it, the formation is always the same, but there is always those subtle differences, and certain games Villa build up in a different way. I thought once we started to go a bit more direct from Martinez from goal kicks, that was when we started to hurt them and create chances and kind of get them on the back foot a little bit by being a little bit more direct. We've got so much pace in this team now. We've got a team that it's probably something that doesn't get spoken about a lot. 50-50s when the ball's loose. Our players seem to come out with the ball and be able to drive forward. We've got so many ball carriers in the team now as well. I just felt when we did that was when we started to get a foothold in the game a little bit more.
Yeah, and it's another string to Villa's bow, really. You know, it's something that Villa don't have to do if that is not what the game requires. They're able to go a little bit more direct, and Emi Martinez we know his qualities with his feet, and he's able to pick out players that are able to take the ball down more direct. And when you've got Onana in midfield, that is another direct threat that Villa can aim towards. Ollie Watkins is good in the air as well. So there's different variations that Villa can use when and if they decide to go a bit more direct. And I think you're right. Once Villa did bypass a little bit of the defensive midfield, you know, the midfield were really able to balls and pick up the second balls and able to pen in young boys in their own half. So I think that was an interesting switch up, because I think Villa did start to build a little bit from the back and then decided, okay, let's switch it up a little bit and go a little bit more direct. And I think it paid off.
Yeah, and the first goal, Austin McPhee at this point is inevitable, Dave. That's 3 goals from set pieces already this season. I think that's right. Three goals from set pieces already. It's another brilliantly worked set piece. I think another thing that gets overlooked as well is different players take Villa's set pieces now. There's a lot of variety. They've obviously got set plans and set moves depending on who's taking the set piece. And when the ball falls to Tielemans, you just kind of get a sense that he's going to score because he's very, very good in those situations. I mean, he's fast turning into my favourite player, Youri Tielemans. Tyrone Mings is in a league of his own as my favourite player. He's well away from everyone else. But then Youri Tielemans is next cab off the rank for me. He is just absolutely superb, and it's a lovely finish. But you just know when he hits it, you've got half a chance because he's got beautiful technique.
Mm-hmm. I think Villa are running a little bit hot on set pieces at the moment. They are, you know, scoring goals when perhaps later down the line things might not work out as well. But you're right. I love Austin McPhee. I love his presence on the touchline. I love his hair. I love everything about him. And I think, you know, he's one of the best in, I think it's probably fair to say, one of the best set piece sides in the top 5 leagues. And most of that has to go down to Austin McPhee. I know we've had issues defensively from set pieces, but I think not to take any blame or any, if that's the right word, away from Austin McPhee, but I know that the manager has more of a say in defensive set pieces usually than a set piece coach. That's generally across the board in football. But when it comes to attacking set pieces, I think McPhee the responsibility, and he has run with it. And I know in his post-match last night, Emery said, you know, we've had a little bit of input as well. And I think that's the perfect collaboration, because sometimes when, you know, you are one of the best in your field, sometimes you don't take advice from other people that well because you've done so well to get into that position. I'm not necessarily talking about Villa here, but just in general in life. And I think it's a credit to McPhee that when Unai Emery came in, Emery saw the value in having him here. And I think from McPhee's point of view, he saw the value of his coaching staff being able to input into those ideas. And set pieces are such fine margins as well, and sometimes they won't work out. For instance, the Tielemans goal last night, it's been worked so Tielemans is able to have 5 yards without being closed down. Now, there were bodies flying in front of that ball, and one time Tielemans might not catch it right and it might fly behind for a corner, or a defender might be able to get a block on it and it will fly behind for a corner or something like that. So it's about work for an effort on target, or as it was last night, a couple of extra yards on top of that, where Tielemans has got the space to relax on the shot. And that's the most important thing. When someone of the technique of Tielemans, he's got a great technique when he's striking the ball. And when players are running at you, that is when you tend to kind of snatch at it a little bit. And McPhee has given him the time there to be able to really relax into the shot. And that enables him to strike it perfectly and strike it cleaner than perhaps he would do if that is the added value that McPhee has given that side. He's able to, whether it's from headers, work half a yard, or whether it's from that opportunity where you're creating a pullback like against Leicester and it turns into a tap-in. So I think, you know, it just shows the value that McPhee's had, but also the value that the input that the coaching staff have had too.
I think McPhee might be my favourite backroom staff member ever. I just love when he gets up for a set piece, like Jesus Christ emerging on Easter Sunday for every set piece, isn't it? The way he just comes out with his long hair. I honestly can't think of a backroom staff member that I've liked more. I liked Big Cuts as well. Actually, he was a nice guy. Big Cuts still speak to him now, but Austin McPhee is he's inevitable. Like I said at the start of this segment, you just get a feeling from every set piece that you're going to see something inventive and that something might happen, and they're so important. We saw Arsenal, who've got a very good set piece coach as well, win the North London derby on Sunday off a set piece, and they're up there as one of the best set piece teams as well. But it just seems so inventive what Villa do on a game to game basis, and even if it doesn't come off, you see something every game where you thought that could have worked. I can see what they've tried there, and I don't know if people saw Max's video when he went down to Bodymore and he had a little section where he got to sit and have like a set piece briefing with Austin McPhee. Worth a watch. That's so interesting. And then, once Villa have gone 1-up, you feel like they're going to score every time that they come forward, Dave, albeit the second was a huge gift. Great to see Ramsey back on the score sheet. Could have been a penalty. Could have seen my hot take come true. I went for it for a second game in a row, finding out who Villa's penalty taker was. It didn't happen. I think it would have been a penalty had Ramsey not scored. But it's good to see Ramsey getting back up to speed and getting a run in the team, because he was missed last season.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he's one that needs games to build up that confidence, to build up, his rhythm. I think last season was so stop-start for him, whether it was injuries, whether it was other players being ahead of him, that, obviously it's not ideal that Leon Bailey has suffered. Jacob Ramsey, and I think he's one that we all know his quality. We all know his potential. He is an England international in waiting if he gets up to the level that a lot of Aston Villa fans think he's able to get to. So it's just great to see. And he looked at home at that level as well. We can question the defending, we can question the opposition. There's going to be tougher opposition in this competition. But, he looked at home at that level. He looked calm. He looked composed. And I'm so pleased for him, because he's had a really hard year. For him to be able to nail down a starting place this season, it's only going to benefit him with the sheer number of games that he's going to get this year, rhythm, and hopefully we see the potential that we all think he's got.
Yeah, then it should have been 3-0. I'm still trying to work out why the third was disallowed. I've not seen an angle where I've seen that's handball. I don't know whether there's one floating around, but in my mind, Dave, Ollie Watkins he scored in the Champions League in my mind. It might not be on the books, might not be on the record, but Ollie Watkins has scored in the Champions League, because the second goal was more handball than that. He landed on the ball with his hand in the third, and then it's almost like they thought maybe we should have disallowed that or pulled it back. So we'll just disallow this one instead.
I don't know. I don't know what was going on with the handball situation and the officials last night. I couldn't see the handball on the Watkins goal. For the other disallowed goal, it seems so far between that and
harsh,
the ball going in the net. That felt harsh as well. So, I don't really understand what was going on. But I thought Watkins had a really positive all-round game. So I know officially he didn't get on the score sheet, but I think for him, he'll take great confidence from that game.
Yeah, just did everything you'd want your centre forward to do. I think he struggled to get to grips with the pitch. There was a moment where he would look like he was going to go through one goal, and then ball ended up getting caught up. And I do just think that's AstroTurf related there, 5G related. I think he would have gone through had it been on grass. But I thought overall, Watkins again, he's getting back to his best now. He's take away the goal scoring side of things, just his all round game. I think this is not having a go at John Duran here at all, but when Watkins isn't on the pitch, I noticed that we're not doing those kind of things as well, because Watkins is just so good at everything else.
It's almost the stuff you don't notice. Everyone notices the goals and the assists, but it's the all-round play. It's his hold-up play. It's his ability to back into defenders and win free kicks. It's, putting defenders off simply. If he's not going to win the header, it's about not allowing the defender to get a clean header on it. And then that enables our midfield to pick up those second balls. So it's the all-round game that Watkins has perfected, and he really isn't just box him into kind of he's a penalty box finisher or he's a channel runner. He's got everything that you want from a modern day centre forward, and I think he's someone that John Duran's got to fight to get past, because I think he's absolutely exceptional, and John Duran has got great potential. I think, if there is one criticism of John Duran, it's that his all-round game doesn't match up to Ollie Watkins, and I think that's what Unai Emery wants from his centre forward. So, as much as, and the disallowed goal from Duran was an unfinish, and I actually think Duran's come back and his technique has improved over the summer. I assume that's something he's been working on, but his touch seems better. His ability to get his head up and find passes is better. And we all had seen the potential in his finishing, but I think that seems to have gone up a level. I know we're very early in the season and he kind of might be running a little bit hot, but I think he's come back a much improved footballer. I think that will help Watkins as well. It helps put pressure on him to increase his level, and I think it's only positive for the team as a whole.
Yeah, and half time, Dave, we saw a substitution. Diego Carlos came on for Bogard, and he said Winston Bogard there. I've played too much Football Manager 1998, or Championship Manager 98 as it was back then. I said with Greg the other day that I feel Lamar Bogard, I think you've got to be patient with him. I think Unai Emery is pushing him through the pain of playing at the moment. He's learning to play right back on the job. But I look at it as being quite similar to Rodgers, where I don't think he looked like he was ready in his first few games, and you thought, "Oh, this is going to be a big ask for him to offer us anything this season." And then suddenly it just clicks. I think that will happen with Bogard. I think he's leaving him out there at the moment. He's having struggles, but the important thing is he's learning, and overall this experience will make him better. And I think, in the next 1, 2, 3 months, when you see Bogard on the pitch, at some point it will have clicked and he'll be a lot more comfortable. Emery's kind of just leaving him out there at the moment to kind of get through setbacks and show resilience and show mentality, because it's clearly a good footballer there. But for him, even, he must have been thinking, I'll be going out on loan again this season. I'm not going to be part of this first team squad. Next thing he knows, he's lining up for Villa in the Champions League in an unfamiliar position. So even though he got taken off at half time, and to be fair, the winger did cause him a few problems, I do think it's a good thing. Emery's leaving him out there. We're still winning games. It's not been a major problem.
I thought it was a statement, the starting 11 from Unai Emery last night. It was unchanged. There was no place for Diego Carlos, who I almost thought might get a start. And there was no place for start against young boys. And I thought it was a real statement to start Bogard at right back too. Yes, I think you're right. The winger did cause him some problems. And I also think you're right in your terminology, calling it pain, because it will feel a little bit painful for him. But it's not the first time that Emery has put players in uncomfortable positions. I remember Leon Bailey being subbed on and subbed off. I think it's happened to Rodgers as well, by memory, where he was subbed on and then subbed off. And situation for Bogard last night because he started, but I think it will be painful for him to be taken off at half time. But hopefully for him, he will be better for that experience and he will learn from that experience. And it's probably a position that people might forget. He hasn't played a whole lot often at right back, so he's learning a new position. He's learning the tactical demands of Unai Emery. So I think it's going to be hard for him to get to the level to be in a short space of time, because that's what he's asking him to do. Now, it might take a little bit of time for him to get there, and that's where the supporters might need to have a little bit of patience with Bogard. I actually think Carlos came on, and apart from the error which led to a young boy's chance, I thought he was solid. I thought he showed real physical presence. I thought he led the defence a little bit as well. I think everybody around him looked a little bit more secure when he came on the pitch. I thought he was solid defensively. And for a player who not to be involved, I think we can all talk about the summer as well when it comes to Diego Carlos. I think he was a player that, should a suitable offer have come in during the summer, Diego Carlos would have been sold. And now he's finding himself on the bench in a Champions League game, and in a game that perhaps last season he would have started at centre-back and Constance would have shifted to right-back. Unai Emery has decided to play a youngster with relatively little experience at first-team level in general, pretty much in the Premier League and at the top level of European football. So for him to be on the bench, I thought that was a real statement. For Bogard to start and Carlos on the bench, but I thought Carlos did really well actually when coming on. I think that's an interesting dynamic now with Carlos. Does he play more? Because I think apart from that error, I thought he did pretty well.
Yeah, and also Villa's defensive options are going to get stronger as the season goes on. From what I hear, Cash should be back for in and around the Bayern Munich game, so that will be a positive. Mings is back in training now. It genuinely wouldn't surprise me if we have games where Kamara comes into that back four and we do something clever in the way that we build up, because he's going to have a job getting past Tielemans and Onana in some games at the moment, because they've been absolutely sensational at the start of the season. But Kamara's capable of playing it. In that, I envisage a situation where Conser plays at right back and Mings comes into back four alongside Power, and they build up in the back three. So there's plenty of things as we move forward. There's going to be more options in there, but I'm just got a feeling about Kamara that we're going to see him play some football in the back four at some point, whether that be from centre back or from right back, and Villa build up in a different way. That's something I think we'll see at some point. Kind of covered Duran's disallowed goal, but in the second half, I thought Villa saw the game out relatively comfortably. It was referenced that Unai Emery took his Villarreal side to Young Boys a few years ago and was 2-0 up at half time, and they got back to 2-2 Young Boys. I'm sure that was playing on Emery's mind, but it was, considering the momentous occasion it is Villa's first game in the Champions League, I felt like Villa just managed the tie really well, and maybe that was a criticism in the away games in the Conference League, that they managed the away games, particularly whether it had been in the group or in the knockouts. And I think a big reason for that, Dave, is someone who gets overlooked. I often see people say John McGinn not involved, didn't have a good game. I've seen that a couple of times this season, and I saw it last night. But for me, he does such a good job for the team in terms of off the ball, what he offers. Obviously, on the ball, he's dropping in from wide and creating that box and becoming a number 10. But off the ball, he's an half put in a shift, get around the pitch, pick up loose balls, cajole everyone around him as well. For me, McGinn goes very much unsung in that midfield.
Yeah, 100%. And I think they said it on the commentary on TNT last night that it's very rare that John McGinn will drop below a 7 out of 10. And I think, again, last night he was excellent. And I think you're right, Villa did manage the game really well in the second half, and the performance felt almost felt like we've seen this before from Emery's side, more so probably in the Premier League than in Europe last season, but managing a game out. And I think we've seen him under Unai Emery. Villa have struggled a little bit when games become more chaotic, and I think McGinn and Unai Emery loves control. We know that, and Villa have struggled when teams try to make it a basketball match. And I think McGinn is one of those players that's able to take the ball and take on what the manager wants him to do. It's downfield. It's to continue to play and play and play. And you're right, off the ball is absolutely exceptional. When Villa are trying to manage a game away from home, are there many other players you'd want in your team than John McGinn? Because he his distance covered is always right up there, and everything that he does, it's about working for the team. He's not individualistic at all in what he does on the pitch, and that's why Emery loves him. That's why his teammates love him. That's why everything for him is about the team.
He's tactically so intelligent as well. I think that's something that doesn't get spoken enough about with some of these players. They're asked to do complex things on the pitch in terms of what they do on the ball and what they do off the ball, and there's few better at it than John McGinn. One of the reasons Bogart's able to play the last couple of games is because he's got John McGinn in front of him as well. So I just think McGinn sacrifices a lot of himself for the team as well. I think he deserves a huge amount of credit, and what a night for him joining Villa in the Championship, now captaining Villa in the Champions League. It's surreal. Like I really enjoyed his Instagram post last night of him with the Champions League ball when he was a kid, and then now wearing a Champions League armband leading out Aston Villa. It's just that there's so many of these great stories around individuals at Villa, from the coaching staff to the players, and it's really, really pleasing to see. I just don't think John McGinn ever gets the credit that he deserves. He's the heartbeat of this team, and he's the leader. And whether Villa are trying to get back in the game, or whether they're trying to see a game out, McGinn actually offers so much if you watch him and just watch what he does. So well done, John McGinn. There's some praise for you if you have tuned into the show today. Villa got the third goal, Dave. Amadou Onana again. I think he's now, I don't know how many goals he'd scored for Everton, but he can't be far off what he's got for Villa now. And he's just showing strings to his bow that I didn't know he had. When I watched him play for Everton, when Villa signed him, I thought, it's a bit expensive, isn't it? 50 million. I've not seen a lot of him to think that he's worth that. But he's come to Villa into the right environment for him, and he's just showing what a great player he is, Dave. And when he's knocking the ball in from 31 yards, I think it was. That's something that Everton fans will have never seen him do. And 3 goals in 5, Dave, and in fact 3 goals in 4.5 games for Onana. He's just looking the all-round midfielder, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And I know we've discussed it a little bit before, but when Villa paid the money for him, I actually thought that's a really good price for him, because I expected him to raise his level at Villa, and I think we're showing that already. And I think this is the perfect environment at Villa for him around. I think it got difficult for him towards the end at Everton, and I think I'm not sure they fully appreciated maybe the player that they had at Everton and the way he carries himself around. He carried himself around Everton, and his perhaps maturity and belief in himself. I'm not sure that was fully appreciated at Everton. Players coming into the Villa dressing room is a different dynamic to what he was involved in at Everton. And I think I'm already seeing him influencing other players. It feels like there's a bit of a relationship there between him and John Duran already. And I wonder whether he's going to become already, or has already become, one of the more senior voices within that Villa dressing room. We know the quality that he plays alongside is in a dressing room where he's looking around and seeing other players who are of a similar or a higher level than him. And I just think he feels a bit more at home at Villa. And I think he's now, under this manager, able to understand the game a little bit more, able to understand his role within the team a little bit more. And I think that's allowing him, and will continue to allow him, to blossom.
I mean, you hear Tielemans speak before the game in the press conference about, this is a footballer that's played in a few different leagues, been playing from a really young age, Yuri Tielemans, and he just says, I've learned so much. And all the players must feel like that. And Onana's level has gone up tenfold from when he was at Everton to being at Villa now. He's a really likeable character, the way he interacts with the fans after the game as well. So he's just been a brilliant signing. And when everyone's fit, that midfield, the competition is going to be fierce when Kamara comes back into there as well. Barkley's probably chomping at the bit to play. I thought he was excellent when he came on against Everton at the weekend. To have these different options now, I don't want to be disrespectful, Dave, but we don't. There's worries about missing Douglas Luiz at the moment. You look at that midfield and think, as a department, I just feel we're a lot stronger than we were last season.
Yeah, it's an interesting argument, isn't it, whether Villa are better or not without Douglas Luiz. I just think Villa are different. Without Douglas Luiz, is a different kind of player. Onana compared to Luiz, they do slightly different things, and I think, as you say, 100% more depth in that midfield position now than there was last season, and I think that helps having the competition at the training ground, because you know that somebody else is going to be coming in and taking your place if you're not performing. So I just think Villa are different without Luiz. I mean, I loved Douglas Luiz, I still do, and I loved the way he played in a Villa shirt, and I loved the way that we helped him as much as he helped us in terms of making him the player that he became. I just think Onana's just slightly different, and I think it's a different dynamic and a different profile for Emery to work with, and I think that will benefit Villa this season in the Champions League, and I think it will benefit Onana. It's another player where there's a mutual relationship there. Onana wants to play for Villa because it will make him a better player, and I think for Villa, having Onana in that midfield makes them perhaps a better all-round 11 with him in it. Yeah,
we were top for a brief period as well. Bayern obviously decided to go and score 9 goals last night. Hopefully they got all their goals out the way before they take a trip to Villa Park in a few weeks' time. 9's very greedy, so I think they probably should score 0 in the next game. I mean, I think we should wrap it up there, Dave. We haven't even spoken about how good Morgan Rogers was, who was absolutely incredible at carrying the ball again. There was a really nice moment before the game on TNT as well when they interviewed his dad. So yeah, well done, Morgan Rogers, because you're probably man of the match, and we haven't even spoke about you once. So yeah, excellent performance for Morgan Rogers. Right then, Dave, I'll get back to your week off. Not going to give you any credit because you forgot your microphone. Should always be thinking about the podcast. That are very, very disappointing. So apologies for Dave's audio. He didn't take his microphone with him, but him and the Chipmunks will be announcing tour details very, very soon. So watch out for them coming. We'll put the link in the description to Dave's tour with the Chipmunks. Thank you to Adam for producing. I mean, I'm saying me and Dave will be back for a match preview. We're going to have to do that pretty sharpish because the game against Wolves is on Saturday. So we'll try and rectify Dave's audio issues before then. Thank you ever so much for tuning in. Thank you to Luke for sponsoring the show. I haven't even mentioned, if you want to get 20% off everything Luke have to offer, celebrate Champions League football for Villa, then use the code TVV20. Keep your eye on your socials for when our next show is out, and do all the things that I always harp on about, including liking, subscribing, commenting, reviewing on audio platforms. Please do those things if you're excited about Villa's Champions League adventure. And as always, up the Villa.